Hello, Reborners. My name is Karen, and this is Making Dolls with Karen. We're back with Liam. He looks like this now. He had his bake, and his... I'm not fully satisfied with the color of his undertones. Dare I do another layer? I'm thinking maybe they'll last through. I'm going to try it anyway. I would like them a little darker, and this is one of those moments where you're going, should I not, And a lot of times you'll regret not doing it. And at the risk of having a third round of enhancements, I think he still needs some more done to him. He just doesn't look the color that he needs to look in order for his enhancements to show through whenever you're finished painting him. We're going to put layers on him, and a lot of this will be toned down, and it's already so toned down from the baking. If you turn it to the side, it does look a little darker, but up here closer to his actual face, it's very, very light. So I don't know. I'm debating. You can always put another layer in between other layers. Put another layer of enhancements. You can do that if you want to take the chance. So we're going to take the chance, I think, because 2 layers of enhancements is a lot. Anyway, I wanted to tell y'all before we got too much into Liam that today is September the 9th, 2025. So there's no confusion later on if you're watching this way in the future. Bountiful Baby just restocked a lot of their kits that they have been out of for a long time. Instead of stocking their kits before, they made a new run of a lot of their discontinued kits just to offer them up a second time. I guess they thought they'd be really, really hugely popular. So instead of the 30 plus kits they were out of, they did 30 artist kits that they had previously discontinued. So it made a lot more kits run out while they were trying to get the new kits stocked. So long story short, they just restocked a lot of their kits, and they're on sale for $19.99. This is a great time to jump over on that website and order you a couple of kits if you're a brand new artist and you want some kits to practice on. $19.99, you won't find them any cheaper than that anywhere else. And a lot of times they're boo-boo kits if you do. And these are not boo-boos. These are first-run kits, and they will have certificates of authenticity. I mean, if they're Reborns. The Reborns do. The artist kits do not. But they got the Reborns, $19.99, and you can get 2, 3, 4, whatever you can afford to get, and you'll have some kits to practice on. I would suggest getting a couple closed-eyed kits and a couple of open-eyed kits. And constantly something. I'm sure it's about dolls. I was just talking to a lady that wanted to get rid of some of her kits, and I was going to see what she wanted for them. Well, that wasn't about kits. It was about something else. Okay. Anyway, this is a great time to pick up a few kits. And they do also have their bodies on sale. Normally their bodies are around $22, but a lot of them are on sale for like $9.99 or $11.99 or $13.99, which is a huge discount on bodies as well. Just keep remembering, if you're ordering a kit that's somewhere between 18 and 20 inches, you can get a 19-inch body. Just pay attention to the configuration of the limbs. They show pictures of the kit, and they also describe the kit. And if you read the description, it'll say 3/4 arms, full legs, or 3/4 arms, 3/4 legs, or whatever. Full arms, full legs. And you want your body to match that. So you just jump over to the bodies and pick out a body that's on sale, and then you have a kit and a body, and you're ready to start working on a doll. And you can run to Walmart and get you some polyfill to stuff it with. And if you just have to have your glass really quick, you can also just have Bountiful Baby, just order a couple of pounds of glass from Bountiful Baby at whatever their price is right now. And they'll send it with the kit. And then you're ready to get started. And all you need is your paint. And paint's not usually that expensive. You can get the 3 or 4 colors that I've been mentioning to you for a little bit of nothing almost. And you can run to Walmart and get you a bottle of paint thinner. I mean, for a beginner, you can actually work without using Exodus oil or thinning medium if you have to. But I recommend getting all that stuff if you don't have it already. But anyway, it's a great time to get it right now. So we're going to get into Liam now, and we're going to try to put some layers on him. He hasn't had any layers as of yet, as you can tell. He still looks like a blank baby. And this is just a comparison. I'm going to pull down a doll that I've finished. Well, I'm going to have to stand up to get her. I have tendon damage in my arm, so I can't reach up very well. And now my chair's going to roll behind me. This is Emma. I did her earlier. I was letting her glue dry, and I think it's dry now. But anyway, I haven't rooted her yet. I just put the glue on her rims and her lips, and on the rims and nails on her limbs. The rims and nails on the limbs. But this is the difference in a painted baby and an unpainted baby. She's painted. He's just barely started. So they're going to come a long way in the painting process. And sometimes they're darker than this. Sometimes they're lighter, depending on what you want on your doll. But see how you can see that she's still got a lot of red in her face. You can still see it. You can actually see the red up here in her face. That's what we want. We want to be able to see it at the end. Anyway, we're going to get started on Liam. I'm going to get out my brush that I use for the 05. And I'm going to get out my paint. And I'm going to get some sponges. For this, you're going to need... I threw away all my dirty sponges. So we're starting with brand new clean sponges. You're going to need one of these to put it on with. And then I try to always use 2 sponges for pouncing the excess off. I use one of these, and then I use one of these harder, denser sponges. They're okay for pouncing off. Just don't use them to put your paint on with. Okay. So the one we're going to put it on with, we're going to rip the top of it and make it look raggy. Because we don't want little square, brown squares all over our doll's head. And this will make it more spongy, and it just makes a better texture on your doll. I never had any problem pouncing it off with a square sponge, so I don't tear them. And you don't have to worry about lint or little pieces of polyfill or anything being on your doll when you're using heat set. They just fall off. Okay, we're going to shake this up a little bit, or you can mix it, either one. It doesn't matter. It's going to separate very fast anyway, and you're going to have to mix it over and over. Every time you put your paintbrush into your mixture, you need to mix it. Okay, here we go. We're going to mix this, and then we're going to put some on our sponge here. We're going to get a good bit on there because we don't want to have to reload our sponge in the middle of doing our head. And it's a brand new sponge that, well, I just dripped it all down the side on my fingers. It's always a good idea to have some paper towel handy. You want to make sure you're getting pretty much all of it off of your brush. Not all of it, but you know, the majority of it. Because we're going to actually be using the brush too, and we don't want our paint to run. If your paint runs or it is too thick and blobby, it's a mess. And we don't want it to run. I'm getting a paper towel to wipe my hands on. You don't want to have any paint on your hands when you touch your doll. You'll leave fingerprints on your doll. And you don't want a big round fingerprint and brown on your doll. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna try to hold him where you can see what I'm doing because this is instructional. I'm gonna paint over his eyes like this on both sides because the sponge won't reach down in these little crevices. Every little crevice on his face, you need to get with this paintbrush. I'm going to stick it up his nose and try to get some inside of his nose. Every color you put on the doll needs to go in his nose. And I'm going to paint right over these lips we painted, inside the lips, underneath his lips, all these little crevices and spots. See, I got his whole face. Now I'm going to do his ear. I'm going to stick it in his ear and just twirl it all around and try to get the whole inside of his ear painted. Then I'm going to do the outside of his ear too, because it's got crevices too that you can't reach. And these little lines underneath here and under his chin down here, they're really hard to get to with a sponge. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here to this ear. I'm going to just get it all in his ear and around his ear. And you notice you can't hardly see it at all. The only way you can tell it's really painted is that it looks a little bit wet. Okay, so now I'm going to take my sponge And I'm going to sponge over all these spots I already did with the paintbrush, because we don't want a brush effect on our doll. It won't reach every spot, but it's going to reach a good portion of them. The only reason we did it with the brush first was to make sure those spots were covered, because like I said, it won't reach every spot, and we need every spot to be covered. So now that his face is all done, cheeks and everything, I'm going to concentrate on the rest of his head, which is pretty much just a round head. And we're just going to pounce it around on his head till you can tell a slight difference when you look at it, that it's a little darker there than here because it's wet. But when it dries, you virtually won't see it. You'll see it ever so slightly. And the way you can tell the best is by looking at the rim. The rim will be a lighter color than the doll all through the process. We don't usually paint the rim. If a little paint gets on it, oh, so be it. But, you know, we don't do it on purpose. Now that I've done his entire head, I'm going to take my denser sponge and I'm just going to pounce it around on him. And whatever's just too wet or too much puddled up or anything, it's going to come off on this sponge. You see, just very little is coming off. And when you see my sponges being very dirty, that's because I've used them many times to do this. Once they're dry, they work again and again and again. At some point, they will stop doing a good job, and you'll know. Your sponge will tell you when it's time to change. You'll know. You'll go, this ain't doing a good job. I need a new sponge. Anyway, we're going to pounce everywhere we pounced before. And we're going to look at him while we're doing it, because we want to make sure nothing on him looks rashy. This paint does not dry real fast. As you can see, even after he's pounced and so-called dried, he still looks shiny and wet. The shiny comes from him being wet. Okay, so I've taken off about all this sponge is going to take off. So now I'm going to take my cleaner sponge and I'm going to pounce him a little bit more. This one's more porous. It's very spongy and soft, and it's going to really soak up any leftover paint that we missed the first time. And the reason I do it twice now, I used to only do it once and just sit him down and let him dry. But I do it twice now because sometimes you miss some. And believe me, you're not taking hardly anything off. Whatever's coming off on that sponge needs to come off. We want our layers to be very thin and very smooth. And look at that, it's very smooth. The last thing you want to do is find a spot that you didn't pounce well enough. And since this is very light, you may not see every spot that you need to pounce. So you just have to pounce everywhere on your doll's head. So anyway, after baking, you would see that. It would look like a rash. It would be brown and splotchy looking and ugly. And you would go, oh no, look what I did. And the only way to get it off after baking is stripping. Now, if I was in the first layer like this, I would strip. But remember, if you strip, you're stripping the sealer too. You're going to have to go back to sealing. Okay, now we're going to do the limbs, and we're going to do them basically the same way. You can tell by the color of the sponge now it's very light. See, it's already soaking down into the bottom part of the sponge. But we're going to mix our paint again, and we're going to reload our sponge because the color in it is just too weak. Every time you do this, you can put less and less in there because it's already wet. See, it was very dry before. So we're just going to take a limb. It doesn't matter which one you do first. And we're going to brush the hands completely. We're going to make sure we're getting all the entire finger, front, back, sides, way up on the tip. And when you're doing these closed up hands, you have to remember to get these little curly cues that are at the side of the inside one and the outside. We're going to brush the palms. We're just going to brush the whole entire doll hand like this. And when we're finished, we're going to take our harder sponge and we're going to try to pounce it all around on our doll's hand. I don't wait on this one because the hand can get super mucky if it starts to dry before you pounce it. It's very touchy. So I go right straight to pouncing immediately. Normally, like I did on the head, I put the paint on the entire head before I pounced it. But on the hands and the feet, I do them immediately. There's so many little crevices that you want to make sure you get the excess paint out of. So And if you're not getting it, if you can see there's still some paint in there and it's not coming out, you can take a brush, and it doesn't have to be an expensive brush. I'm going to be using my expensive brush, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a fluffy brush even. This is a flat brush, and you can just pounce the brush in there. If the brush is dry like mine is, it will soak up that little bit of paint that's still in those little crevices that you want out. And as you're painting, you're going to notice you can't see the creases anymore, but don't worry. Usually after they're baked, you can see the creases again. Sometimes they wash away, but not always. So now that we're done with the hand, we're going to proceed to do the arm. So we're going to do the bottom part of the arm first. I'm going to go all around it, make sure I got every spot. There's a hair, but don't worry about it. It won't hurt anything. You can scratch it off if you need to. Or flick it off with a toothpick or whatever. Okay, now I'm going to do the upper part of the arm. We're going to go, you need to learn to hold your dolls by the rim. Or you can put your finger in the rim and hold them a little bit easier like that. Because you want to get all the way up to that rim. Because that is part of the arm. It's going to show after it's on the body. Anything that's in the indented part or to this side of the indented part won't show. So you don't need to paint it. It won't show at all. And I'm going to pounce real good with this one as well. The arms are so tiny, it just doesn't take any time to do them. See how quickly we're done with that arm? Just done with it. I just lay it on my table. I'm going to tell you, don't lay it on your table. But I think it's dry enough you can lay it on the table. So I do. I sometimes put my doll parts up on the drying rack. I have a doll up there now that I'm working on, separate from this doll. When he goes in the oven, I'll be working on this other doll. And yes, I'm making a video of that one too, but he's a stone's throw away from being finished. And Liam's just getting started. So we're going to paint real good and make sure his whole hand is covered. We're going to do the same thing on this one. Will be easier because it's open. Open hands are much easier to paint. That's why I like them so well. And they just look a lot cuter to me too. I like open hands. A lot of people like balled up fists though. And some of the dolls you get will have two balled up fists. There's another reason. Sometimes dolls can have interchangeable limbs. Like, say you're doing a little kit like Aspen or Leaf. They're just little, tiny little, I think 17-inch kits. I'm not sure. If it's 17, it's considered preemie. And then there's 16-inch kits, and they're like also preemie. But if you start getting lower than that, I think they're called micro preemie. But they're both 17-inch kits, and their arms and legs are the same length. They're twins. And then there's Ashley, and she's also a little preemie. And, you know, if you don't like the two balled up fists, and you can find one doll that has an open hand and one doll has, you know, doesn't, then you can switch a limb or switch whatever, you know. If the limbs aren't too different, you have to take that into consideration, that because you're only switching one limb, they need to match a little better than they would if you were switching both limbs. But anyway, that's just a tip on switching limbs. We're going to get this whole arm, and then we're going to pounce it around. We're going to do it with this one as well. We're going to put 2 coats of this color on the doll. And I'm going to do something that I don't advise you doing as a beginner. You should bake in between your 2 coats. But I'm going to stack them. Stacking just means you're putting another coat on before you bake. And to do that, you have to make sure your doll is very, very dry. Because if it's wet, the new paint will just pull off the old paint. And you'll have this funny looking deficit in your paint where it pulled it off. And then it won't stick again until you bake it, and you'll be really strange looking. So I'm going to advise you, as if you're a new painter, to bake in between every single layer. I do this to save time because baking tends to take a good bit of while. It's only 8 minutes. Well, mine's 12, but it's not that long for the baking so much as it is for the cooling of the doll kit. You cannot paint your doll when it's hot, because if you do, the paint is going to super fast dry before you even get to pounce it out any at all. And you're not going to like what happens. So that's why you have to let it be cool. It's best if it's room temperature. If it's just only very, very, very slightly warm, and I mean so slight you can barely tell it's warm at all, that'll be okay. But if it's very warm at all, it's going to be too warm. Okay, I'm going to put a little more paint on my sponge here because I want to make sure it's dark enough to actually color the doll. You don't have to worry that adding extra paint to your sponge is going to make the paint too dark, because it really doesn't do that. It's still mixed with paint thinner and everything. It's still the same consistency as what's already in there. You just might end up with a little too much in your sponge if you're adding too quickly. But if you're pouncing around and it's just very dry looking when you're pouncing around, you need to reload it. It's just too, not enough paint in it. And you have to pounce too much. I don't like to have to pounce that much. I mean, you can get the paint out usually. And I always set my parts over separate from the ones I just painted. The ones that aren't painted and the ones that are painted. So, because like I said, on this particular layer, you can barely tell that you've even put any paint on it. This is the lightest color you're going to put on your doll. And it's the most fallible for that reason, because you cannot see the paint good enough to tell. That's why I do a lot of pouncing. Now we have this leg, and then we're gonna try to hurry up his drying time by using our heat gun. So you'll get to see how the heat gun is used. You don't have to have a heat gun. I only recently got my heat gun, and it was because I was watching an artist make a baby scratch, and I've made many, many baby scratches. But if I've had to build them up like you do the lips and nails over time, you know, over each layer of the doll. And sometimes you're almost to the end of the doll, like I was with Emmy, and I let her touch the inside of the oven, which made a boo-boo on her. So I was either going to have a boo-boo or I was going to make a baby scratch on that doll. Anyway, I was watching an artist make a baby scratch, and instead of building hers up over time, she used a heat gun to dry the paint so she could do the next layer right away. So that is an option, but it's not perfect by any means. We'll go over that when we're using the heat gun. And well, we can go over it now. There's no reason. The problem with the heat gun is you have to be very careful with it. It's not hard to use. It's very, very easy to use, as a matter of fact. It doesn't have any temperature controls on it, so it just gets hotter and hotter as you're using it. I'm sure there's a top number it won't go past, but I don't know what it is. But anyway, it just starts out like, kind of like if you're using a hair dryer to dry your hair. When it first starts out, the air is just slightly warm, but as you go on, it's starting to burn your ears and stuff. And you're going, okay, that's really hot now. And the heat gun's about the same. I theorize in my mind you could use a hairdryer to do the same thing, but it just doesn't get hot enough, I don't think. We're not trying to cure the doll, because we would never know when it reached 265. And not only that, you can't hold it in every spot on the doll for 8 minutes. That would take way, way too long. So instead, we're just trying to dry whatever paint is wet on our doll at the moment. And that's all we're really trying to do. So what I do is I just turn it on and start blowing it on my doll, and I try to put the doll where whatever's passing this limb, say, is going to kind of dry that limb too, make it a little faster. But you have to pay attention to how hot your doll's getting, because you don't want to overheat your doll. And it's not much risk you're going to do that, but you can't hold it too close. And it just has rules that you have to follow to do it, to successfully do it. And here's my heat gun. I think I showed it already when I was showing what you need to make a doll. This says 110 volt, 50 HZ, and 300 watts. Doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't know what any of that means. But anyway, you can see his head looks pretty much dry, but there is a little shiny still on here. We're going to heat him until the shiny goes away. That usually means they're dry enough. A truly dry doll is going to just feel powdery. You're going to feel that paint is dry on the surface and it feels like powder is on your doll. But instead of doing that, we're just going to heat it. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to fully heat the entire doll enough to put another coat of paint on there. Usually some of the pieces will be, like his head is very dry already. So it's only going to take a few seconds really to finish drying his head. That's pretty much it on the head. It's very dry looking. So we're going to do the limbs now. And like I said, I'm going to hold them over these other limbs so that any air that's passing over his arm here is going to blow onto them legs and kind of dry them too. And you'll notice as you're doing this, the doll is also getting lighter. The color of the paint is getting lighter. This paint dries very matte. It is possible to get a shiny baby with this paint, but it's not easy. If you put too much paint and if you bake them at too high of a temperature for too long, they can turn shiny. But don't worry, you can rematte them with the matte varnish at the end and they'll be matte again. Okay, he's pretty dry now. You can tell he's not shiny at all. And he does have a sort of powdery finish. He could get a little powderier as he dries even more, but we don't have to wait that long. So now we're going to apply another coat. Now, this would be the point where if you're not putting a second coat on it, instead of drying it with the heat gun, you just check his lips and nails and go on and bake him. But we're going to put the second coat on him first to save a bake. See how quickly I dried him? It's way quicker than an 8 to 12 minute bake, and also way quicker than having to wait for him to cool, because he's just not hot. They cool very quickly because the heat doesn't get deep into the vinyl. It's and the paint is by no way cured. We're still going to have to bake him, but we can now apply a second coat of paint. So that's what I want to do. Uh-oh, there's something I want you to see. Look on his eye. There's a big dot of paint there. Do you see it? We have to get that off because it will bust open and it will make a dark spot on our doll. That is a granule. Sometimes they get in your paint, and since I was using the paintbrush, it was just right on the tip of one of my bristles, and it just came right off on the doll and didn't bust open. If it busted open, we'd have to try to smooth it down and you know, diminish the color a little because it would be very dark. Usually you can do it, but you don't want to have to try. That's something you don't want to have to mess with. Okay, we've done everything we need to with the brush. Now we do this coat exactly the same as we did the last coat. There's nothing different about it. 2 lighter coats are better than 1 dark coat, I find. It just gives you a better color, and it's less messy, and it takes a little bit longer, but some things are just worth it. And If you stopped and baked between your coats, you're going to notice that the second coat is going to be largely like the first coat. You're barely going to be able to see it on the doll, but it's still there. And it is a color. It does darken the doll a little bit. And without this color, I went through a phase where I was thinking, you know what? If you can't see it, why are we putting it? And so I skipped it and just went to the second color. And boy, you could really tell at the end of going, well, it don't look right. It doesn't have any flesh color on it. The flesh color is light. And this is one of the darker flesh colors. Just imagine if you're using 08 or baby skin. It is so light. I mean, literally, you cannot tell that's on there. That's why I didn't like the paleness of my doll at the end. I like my dolls to have color, and I still want them to look like white babies, but I don't want them to be super, super pale like they are anemic or something. And so I went to a darker color. That's why I did it. But you're free to use any color you want to. Now this time, we don't have to wait for anything to dry. He's going to go in the oven after this. Well, we're going to check his lips and nails first and vamp them up a little. In every step you do that, because it's every opportunity to get a bake and bake it on there. It's a bake you won't have to do later all by itself for just the lips and nails, which I am not a fan of doing that. A lot of people do that though. And it is an option if you want to do it, but I don't see how they can miss the nails and the lips the way they do. They must take the tiniest of a brush and put the paint all around the finger, around the nail. It's just too tedious for me. I can't do that. I'm not trying to make it anxiety ridden. This is a calming, to me, it's a very calming and pleasant craft. You don't really have to sit there and worry over your doll. All you have to do is just trust the process a little bit and follow the steps. That's why I wanted to use paint. This is why I wanted to. I wanted to use paint that you didn't have to fuss over. I don't want to sit there and go, now how much of this color do I add to make it the right color? It's just too much. It's too anxiety. It's too much anxiety for me. I can't do it. I wanted it to be free and easy, and I wanted it to be simple to follow and repeatable. That was the most important thing to me, because at first I was making dolls willy-nilly. One doll would turn out real good. Another doll would be kind of and you're going, okay, what am I doing different? It's got to be the paint color or the way I'm putting it on or something. So I decided, I need a process. I need to develop a process. And so I set about to do that. I started experimenting with the way I mix my paints. A little darker, a little lighter, 1 coat, 2 coats, to see how does it make it. And yes, I had plenty dolls that were just not up to snuff. But as a beginner, you're going to have those anyway. So I always just tell people, don't feel bad about your dolls that don't come out perfect. We're not perfect people. We are people. That makes us totally not perfect to begin with. So you're going to make mistakes even as a seasoned artist. You're going to have boo-boos. Like, I let the oven touch my doll's head, for heaven's sakes. How many dolls do you have to make before you can raise the lid up higher before you start moving it over to the side? And anyway, we learn from our mistakes. Believe it or not, your mistakes teach you something. Just following another person and just blindly doing what they say is not a learning it is a learning process, and it does help you not make as many mistakes in the beginning. But you still have to it's hard to explain. You're going to want to branch out a bit and make it your own, if you know what I mean. But what I offer you is a way to start, and you don't ever have to change if you don't want to, but chances are you're going to want to change at least a little bit. And some people, they move on to do the primary method. Some people do theirs all in washes. Some people actually only do modeling. They only just keep on putting layers and layers of modeling colors on. And they like and that's all that matters. It's like all the different kinds of painters and all the different kinds of sculptors and, all the different kinds of art there are in the world. Everybody has their own way. And don't feel bad if you don't like my way. You can do your own way. But my way is easy. It's actually easy to follow. It's very, very simple. And the most important thing to me is it is repeatable. I don't have to sit there and worry over every little step if I'm doing it correctly. And, because I can repeat it over and over again for every doll and consistently make nice looking dolls. And that's what I set out to do when I was developing my repeatable process. I said, I need a method or a process that I can repeat every time. So I experimented with different layers, different thicknesses of color, different ways to put it on, everything. And I weeded out the things that didn't work. So the benefit of watching my videos is you don't have to do all that. This process is very, very repeatable. And we are going to repeat it on our second doll. I'm going to make it follow along tutorial number 2. And we're going to do an open-eyed doll. And you're going to see that the process is very, very repeatable. By watching different series that I have, you can see, pretty much all the different things that I actually do to dolls. This is a beginning series. I would say in an intermediate series, you would do modeling and you would, I don't know, maybe do more in depth of some of the things we're already doing. A lot of people paint hair. We're going to pencil hair on our second doll. And then on our third doll, we're going to root hair. So it's going to be sort of a beginner, intermediate, and a little more advanced. Now, I'm not going to show you advanced rooting techniques because you won't be able to do them. Rooting is actually, it's two-faceted. One thing is, it's not as easy as it looks like when you see a person doing it. But it's also probably not as hard as you're thinking it may be. When you're rooting hair, the number one thing you want to remember is, I have to get hair in that head. It's no good if I'm poking holes in the doll and no hairs are going in, or they're going in and pulling right back out. Those are two common things that happen when you're new at rooting. And neither one of those will get you a doll with hair. So I think everybody will agree, it doesn't matter what needle you use, it doesn't matter what method you use if you're not getting any hair in the head. You can mono and micro root all you want to, but if no hair stain in that head, it doesn't work. So that's what I had to learn that. I was trying to begin with mono rooting or micro rooting. Micro just means very, very few hairs are going in the hole. Mono means literally one hair. I dare say very, very few people are going to get one hair in a hole. It's just not doable for me. I can't see that well, and my hands are shaky, and we are sometimes limited to what art we can do by our physical limitations. And because of my physical limitations, I am unable to mono root. Now, I can't say I haven't micro rooted some at times, but my entire doll will not be micro rooted. I can tell you that right off the bat because it is too hard and it takes a billion hours. I'm just going to put it out there. It takes about 1 billion hours to do it. While my rooting technique, rooting just takes a long time anyway. It takes several hours to several days depending on how you root and how much hair you want on your doll and all that stuff. The kind of needle you're using. There's so many factors that go into rooting that it's impossible to set a standard like it's going to take you 4 hours to root. You just can't say that, because it might take you 4 hours just to root an eighth of the head, because it's actually time consuming. You want to be comfortable when you're sitting down to do it. You don't want to be on a chair that hurts your back or something, because it's a process. It really, really is. And it's very okay. I'm just going to tell you how I started rooting. When I first started rooting, I just bought some hair and some needles. I bought a 25 pack. I don't know how many needles I need. I'm sure I'm going to break some. So they had a 10 pack. They had one single needle, and then they had a 10 pack, and then they had a 25 pack. Got something on the stove and it's boiling over. And I highly recommend the 25 pack. Hold on, I got to do something about that. Actually, it wasn't boiling over. It was actually boiling dry. And I left my doll sitting here with a wet leg. Ugh. Anyway, I got the 25 pack, and I broke almost every single needle on the first doll that I made, because there's a learning curve there on how you can stick the needle in the head without breaking it. And a few pointers from an artist would have been helpful for me, but all they ever do is make a video showing them putting 1 or 2 hairs in the head, and that's it. They don't show the whole process, and they don't talk you through it and tell you why you're doing it this angle, or why you can't root on this side of the head unless you turn the head a certain way. They don't tell you that stuff. And so you don't know. You have to learn it by experience. So I didn't have that, so I had to do it, my way. And so anyway, it was pretty grueling. That first head I rooted, and it looked horrible, because I knew nothing about directionality or anything like that. And okay, that's 2 coats on him. We're now going to look at his nails and lips again. So anyway, long story short, it was horribly rooted, and it looked just awful. And each baby I did after that, you kind of pick up a pointer just in your own mind. You figure out, oh yeah, do it this way instead of that way, and you get a little better and a little better and a little better. But I feel like with somebody saying, no, don't stick the needle in this way, stick it in this way, you're going to have a little bump up in your learning. You're not going to have to gruel through every single one of those things. And that's what I try to offer people in my videos, is a better way. A way to learn it without having to go through all the mistakes that I had to go through. Okay, I'm going to repaint his lips and inside his mouth. Get the inside of his mouth first. It's a little easier, because you're not messing up the lips when you're doing the inside of the mouth. I want it to be a little darker inside his mouth than it is. Liam's a cute little artist kit. Don't forget to jump over on Bountiful Baby and look at those kits and get you an order in if you don't have any kits. If you order $100, the shipping's free. I know that seems like a lot to a lot of people, but I save up my doll money. I have a certain amount I allot every month to dolls, and that's about all I can spend because I'm on Social Security. But instead of just spending it, oh, it's the beginning of the month, let me spend my money, I save it. And then whenever a big sale like this comes up, I can take advantage of it. I couldn't order all the dolls I wanted, but I got the ones I wanted the most, and that's pretty good, I think. Uh, when I don't see any dolls, of course, your money rides a little bit, and then or if you sell a doll, you have a little bit of extra money too, and you can order more dolls that way. But I just didn't. I haven't sold a doll in, I'm gonna say a month. And dolls are just not selling right now. People are gearing up for Christmas and stuff, and they're just not spending money. So it's gonna be a little bit slower selling your dolls for a while. When October rolls around, people will start buying more. You'll sell maybe one or two a week. And then in November, it really bumps up and you'll be selling dolls, especially toward the end of November. You'll be selling dolls like crazy. At times, I would sell 3 dolls. I have to get a pickup from the post office. We While we can mail dolls through FedEx or UPS here, we don't have a store. So we have to go to the dollar store and we have to leave our doll there. We pay them $1 just to leave our doll sitting on the floor in their store where anybody could steal it. And I don't do that. And then when UPS comes around once a day and just picks up the packages. You know, most of the time, like when I was at my son's house, I was in a different county. I was in Tipton County. And over there they're not UPS stores, but it's a place like AutoZone or somewhere like that you can go and they'll scan your package and keep it securely behind the desk and all that. Well, see, they don't do that at the dollar store. You just go, okay, put it over in the pile and give us $1 to leave it here, you know. And it's just too risky for me. So I have to use the post office, and I don't have any way to get there. So I have to schedule a pickup. You just go online to USPS.com, and you schedule a pickup. You tell them how many boxes you have and what the approximate weight of them are and stuff like that. Do they have any hazardous materials in them? You know, you have to all the questions you have to answer when you go to the post office, and then when they're bringing around the regular mail, they'll come knock on your door and take your packages. So at times, last year, I had to, I'd have like, okay, let's say 3 boxes going off on a particular day. And they won't, if you have 3 boxes down, well, one of the mail carriers that comes here will take however many boxes you have, but the other one won't. It's not on the scheduled pickup. I can't take it. So you'll have to have them come back the next day and get that one. But or after the boxes go off, you sell 3 more dolls that day. I've had 5, 6 boxes last year going off at one time. That's how fast they were selling, and it was awesome. It makes you feel like, I don't know, Superman on steroids or something, because I'm selling dolls. Can you believe it? And I never tried to sell as many dolls or make as many dolls in the past as I have the last couple of years. Before, I'd make, I don't know, 6 dolls, and I'd have 6 dolls for sale. And if one sold or 2 sold, I might go make 2 more dolls. And, you know, I was very slow paced. And now I don't have anything else to do. Even after I retired from my regular job, I worked part-time at like being a cashier or something at a store or something just to make some money, you know. So I didn't have a really, really lot of time to work on dolls. But now I'm fully retired. I don't have any job. I don't even babysit grandkids anymore. I did that too. And that took a lot of my time, babysitting my grandkids. But I didn't want them going to daycare, so I volunteered. And so I did that for a number of years, quite a number. But my grandkids, other than the 2 smallest ones, are grown. They don't need babysitters. And I have one that just got adopted. She's just barely over a year old and super, super adorable. She is one beautiful little baby girl, let me tell you. But anyway, she needs a babysitter, but they have a lady that does it. I just told him I just wasn't up to babysitting anymore. I'm just too old. I don't want to do it. You know, I raised all my kids, and then I raised two other kids, and then I that weren't mine, and not even my grandkids. Uh, and then I practically raised my grandkids through babysitting them. That, you know, when they're at your house all day long and they go home to sleep, you're pretty much the one raising them. And I did my three grandkids, and then I did, when my son remarried, I did her kids as well. They're younger than my son's kids. Anyway, my three grandkids are fully grown, and she's still got some at home. Mary's 13 and Katie's 1. But Mary will always be a child. She's special needs. She will never stop needing a babysitter. She still plays with toys a 6-year-old plays with. And yet, it's really weird. And yet, she's interested in makeup and stuff now. I don't know. It's like, in some ways, they do grow in their mind, and in other ways, they don't. I don't know. Anyway, that's his nails and his lips, and he's got 2 coats of paint on him, and he's ready to go back in the oven. So this segment only took 51 minutes. A couple of them were over an hour. But okay, we'll get a little faster at it on the next doll. I'm going kind of slow so y'all can see everything that I do and understand everything that I do. This is our first layer. It's 2 layers really, but I'm calling it the first layer because it's the same color. You never, never, never want to stack different colors. Only stack the same color, because you'll make a color you don't like by putting 2 colors together. For example, if you were putting a blue coat and a red coat, which I don't do that to my dolls, but some people do, you might get a purple doll, and you don't want that. So you're going to bake before you put any other colors on the doll, because they can actually mix together and form some funky color you don't like. So anyway, we're going to get him in the oven, get him baked, and we'll be back to do his next layers, the next color of layers. And so I'm going to ask everybody to please like, subscribe, and share, and happy reborning.